Let us try and understand the process of oogenesis and the formation of mature ova further. Now, in the previous video, we have explained about the development of the oogonia into secondary oocyte. Now, what are the changes? Now, we know that the entire process of oogenesis is divided into three phases: the multiplication phase, the growth phase, and the maturation phase. Let us study what are the various events during each of the phases. Now, remember that at puberty, a female has approximately 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles, and they are present in each of the ovary. So, we have 60,000 to 80,000 in one of the ovaries and other the 60,000 to 80,000 ovaries. The number of follicles is significantly reduced due to a follicular atresia that happened to take place between the birth and the puberty. It is actually the atresia is a phenomena that is the degeneration and the removal of the primary follicles by the phagocytic cells. So this number is significantly reduced. Initially the number was very high, that is reaching up to 7 millions in the embryonic development, but at puberty a female is having a significantly reduced number of primary follicles. And also a female can produce only 450 ova during her reproductive phase. So we see that there is a very much reduction in the number of the ova which is being available for fertilization. Now, the primary oocyte which is being formed over here is arrested at prophase 1 diplotin stage, and it is the resting stage. This is the first meiotic division. Let me write with the black. Prophase 1, that is the meiotic 1. Meiotic 1 division, which is taking place, and the primary oocytes are arrested at prophase 1 diplotin stage. Next phase is the growth phase. Till here the development is at the puberty stage. Now growth phase, over here there is no division of the primary oocyte or no further development take place. It only includes the enlargement in the size of the nucleus, and also the quantity of the cytoplasm increases. This is all in anticipation of the further development of the primary follicle into the secondary follicle. So till here the growth phase and the multiplication phase is taking place in the puberty stage. Next comes the maturation phase. Now the maturation phase involves the development of the primary follicle into a complete ova. So what is happening over here, I have mentioned in the steps, the primary oocyte which we have received from the puberty gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells and is now known as primary follicle. So over here the primary follicle will have a layer of cells which are known as granulosa cells. Now it will be called as primary follicle. The primary follicle gets surrounded by more granulosa cells and then theca cells. So these are the two more different types of cells which are present over there, and it will form the secondary follicle. Now the granulosa cells and the theca cells are responsible for producing various kinds of hormone. They are endocrine. So granulosa cell will produce the hormones as well as the theca cells. The theca is divided into theca interna and theca externa. Theca interna and theca externa both are responsible for producing hormones such as estrogen, estradiol, etc., which help in the development of primary oocyte. So the granulosa cells, as you can see over here, and the theca cells which are developed, now they will be surrounding the primary follicle to form gradually the secondary follicle. So more addition over there as a cell over here, and they will be forming the secondary follicle. The secondary follicle develops a fluid-filled cavity which is known as antrum. Now, as you can see over here, these blue ones are the granulosa cells. Now, these granulosa cells are present, and over here, this is the fluid-filled cavity which is known as antrum. Now, antrum, as soon as the antrum appears, granulosa cells are attaching itself to form from this primary oocyte over here. Now, what happens is the appearance of the antrum is an indication that the tertiary follicle is formed. And this antrum is also at the stage where the primary oocyte over here completes its first meiotic division. And this meiotic division is unequal. That means it is having the first polar body formation, forms the first polar body, and an haploid secondary oocyte. So over here at this tertiary follicle stage, the first polar body formation is there, and also the haploid secondary oocyte. Now, due to this unequal distribution of the cytoplasm, the secondary oocyte will retain most of the cytoplasm, whereas polar body will gradually degenerate, that we have studied in the previous video, and the haploid secondary oocyte will now develop into a mature ova. So this polar body degenerates, and this restores maximum cytoplasm. The cytoplasm, this unequal distribution of cytoplasm is due to a process which is known as Oogenesis that I have explained previously. Now, this haploid secondary oocyte retains most of the cytoplasm because over here the further development of the embryo will be taking place and it requires the nutrition. The antrum is actually containing, it's a fluid-filled cavity, and the antrum is having the secretions of both the granulosa cells and the theca cells. So it provides a congenial environment, or it provides the microenvironment, the antrum. The antrum is providing the microenvironment due to the secretions of the granulosa cells and the theca cells. It's a fluid-filled cavity, and it is providing the environment, right kind of environment for the development of the secondary oocyte. Now, this tertiary follicle then changes into the Graphene follicle. So here, this Graphene follicle, if we study the structure in detail over here, you can see the membrane over here, and the red ones, outer ones, these are theca externa, and the ones which are along with the membrane over here are the theca interna. Theca externa and theca interna form the theca cells, and these theca cells produce various kind of endocrine hormones. The major is estradiol and estrogen, and further later other hormones also. This blue layer which you can see is the granulosa cells, and these granulosa cells are over here, which are again producing several hormones over here, and it is surrounding the primary or the fully grown oocyte. A fully grown oocyte is enclosed thereby by the by the granulosa cells. The antrum is a fluid-filled cavity, so the secretions of the granulosa cells and the thecal cells are over here. And since it is the primary this oocyte is completely surrounded by the fluid, it is developing properly, getting the nutrition. Also, the secondary oocyte, now at this stage, the secondary oocyte, which is now a haploid structure carrying 23 chromosomes because of the completion of the first meiotic division over here, this develops a layer which is known as Zona Pellucida. this layer which is thick over here enclosing the nucleus. So this zona pellucida is found to be present in a mature ovum. It's a layer of glycoprotein and it performs various important functions. The most important being when this graphene follicle ruptures, it will release the ova. After rupturing, that means when the rupturing of the graphene follicle happens, this is the mature ova which is being released, and this is surrounded by a layer of cell which is known as zona pellucida. This zona pellucida first function is to save or to protect the ovum. Also, it helps in species specific fertilization. That means it allows only the sperm of that particular species to come and fuse. Another important function of zona pellucida is it prevents polyspermy. Polyspermy is a condition when many sperms fertilize the ova. So it allows only one sperm to fertilize the ova, especially in the case of human beings. Also, this enables the acrosomal reaction. The zona pellucida layer enables the acrosome reaction so that the sperm can bind to the ova and allows the movement or the acrosome to pour its contents inside the ova. So these are the functions of the zona pellucida. So at this particular stage, the graphene follicle at the secondary oocyte is released, and this then forms corpus luteum. The functions of this will be studying in the later part of in the next video. Thank you.